Welcome to Invest Insights. I'm Abby Maloney. I'm joined today by Kerri Smith, the Vice President of the Southeast Region of Baker Concrete Construction. Thank you for being here today, Kerri.
Thank you for having me.
Well, let's begin. You're responsible for 6 markets in the Southeast U.S. and leading more than 1,000 employees. In an industry where labor is at a premium, how do you use the lessons learned from your 18 years with Baker to creatively problem solve for your teams and foster an innovative culture?
Great question. I would say experience and lessons learned would be more around just the empowerment and excitement and the culture that we bring to people. So if there's a lot of obstacles that we're facing, one of the things that we truly believe in is how do we ask ourselves the question of how do we make this situation quicker? How do we make it more simple for the stakeholders that are involved? And so a lot of times I think that we miss the step of taking a step back and saying, let's really understand what our obstacle is. Let's bring the people in that, one, are dealing with that obstacle, and two, that can bring better solutions to the table. And so that's the part of the empowerment that I think is a bit magical, not creative perhaps, but at least creating space for the people that are dealing with the obstacle to come in and figure out the solutions that fit them. And then the second part of that would be energizing. So once they come up with a solution, or they say, hey, is there a certain technology involved that can help make the obstacle go away, or perhaps make it a lot more simpler for us to handle? Is there a process that needs to be put in place? Because they're the ones who are doing it. Once we get that wrestled to the ground, then it becomes, how do we energize the team around, here's the next solution, and here's how we're going to bring it to fruition. And so if I were to go back and say, and I'm still learning it, that the biggest lesson that I've learned is how do we make sure that we empower those involved? And how do we bring this fresh energy to make sure that the change happens after we come up with a solution?
Using your team to find solutions for difficult challenges is paramount. And the key issue that everyone in construction is facing right now is the challenge with global supply chain. There are a number of materials that are short or whose lead times are leagues above where they were back in 2019. What are some creative ideas or innovative workarounds that you and your team have implemented? And to what extent do you believe the supply chain has been fundamentally changed for the long term?
I think creative and innovative is a bit of a stretch. I think some creativity is how do we get back to the basic blocking and tackling of what we do. And so when we're looking at things like the global supply chain, things that we can't necessarily control ourselves, we have to go back to basic planning and basic communication, which at times can feel very innovative and creative because we tend to move past those to thinking that, hey, let's stick a process in place, or let's figure out a way that we can try to help something global that honestly we're not going to be able to help. So we go back to the, how are we planning? If we know that there's an issue, how do we, one, communicate it to everybody involved, whether it's our suppliers or our customers or an internal team? How do we communicate that, yes, we understand this is a problem, first off? And then how do we take, again, that step back and say, what's our plan that surrounds it? Is there things that we can do to continue being productive in a downtime? So that might be reschedule our job site sequence, or if there is a delay in material being delivered to the project, then how do we take that crew of people and move them to do follow-up work? And so it goes back again to, we know that there's a global issue. Let's take a step back and say, it is what it is. How can we help in alleviating the pain that our customers and that our coworkers are facing? And a lot of that is going back to the basics. What are we doing? What can we do better? How can we make it more simple? How can we remove obstacles that might feel like they're not our issue, but they are because it's affecting the whole project team? And going back to communicating that to everybody involved. So it becomes more of a full project team, not just with ourselves, but with our customers and suppliers, and saying, hey, this is an issue that's affecting us. What can we do creatively to make sure that we're not missing that production?
That's right. And another challenge has been that construction has traditionally been viewed as a male-dominated field, but you stand as a testament that this is changing. What are some creative practices in which Baker Concrete Construction and the industry as a whole is becoming more accessible and inclusive? And what would you tell the young women of today who might have an interest in joining the industry but might be hesitant?
I would say that's a big question, so I'm going to unravel a little bit. I would say to the young women who are thinking about getting into the industry, don't let self-doubt hold you back from a great opportunity. And I think that the industry as a whole, the construction industry, has an enormous amount of opportunity. And a lot of times I think that people see this as kind of like, I don't want to reach out, or I don't want to try because I already in my mind know what the outcome is going to be. That's not the case, right? I think that we're lucky to be able to be in a time where, voices are being heard, where we're starting to get a lot more self-confident and what could the possibilities be. So I would say my biggest advice would be never self-doubt. Own who you are, be proud of who you are, and go get it if you want it. If this is something that you want to do, don't let people distract you from your end goal. What are we doing creatively? I think that there's a big piece around mentoring and recruiting the right type of people. And our biggest transformation in our mindset at Baker is, who are we recruiting? And a lot of times we think that we need to recruit people that have experience in the industry, or they look a certain way, or they have a certain history. And we're changing that mindset quite a bit. Mr. Baker always says we hire for smart grit. For me, that means we're looking for people with jagged resumes. We're looking for people who bring three basic things to the table. Intelligence, so IQ is the first smart. EQ, have a great understanding of emotional intelligence, can work with people, treat people fairly. So that's the second smart, and smart grit. And then finally, have a determined work ethic. I think if we have people that have that smart grit, we can teach them construction. So creatively wise, we're saying, let's open our minds, right? Let's create some space that there's a lot of people out there who have those core values of smart grit. Let's first get them to the industry. Let's bring them in, let's mentor them, and then let's train them to do what we do.
And Kerri, maybe that smart grit mentality will help answer my last question today, which is, what role does creativity play in remaining competitive in today's landscape?
I think competition is healthy, right? I think that we invite competition, but we always talk about, any business talks about, what's our competitive advantage. For me and for Baker, we believe that, yes, we build incredible concrete structures, but we're our people, right? We're a company of people that happen to pour concrete. And so I think when we go back and look at competitive advantage and we look at the competitive landscape of things, as long as we have the best talent, we're going to survive, right? We're going to be the people that are always figuring out what's the better way to do things. We're going to stay on that creativity edge. We're going to continue to bring in minds that think about, how do we create space? How do we create space in our thinking that says, okay, we know this is how we've done it in the past. Let's shed that and let's try to open our minds to, what are some outside of the realm possibilities that we want to bring to the table. And so that's the part of the smart grit that says, this is why we're different than our competition. And I think if we keep our eyes on not so much what our competitors are doing, but us as a company saying we want to lead the industry, we do that through hiring the right people. And those people have that smart grit.
Well, thank you very much, Kerri.
Thank you for having me.
That was Kerri Smith, the Vice President of the Southeast Region of Baker Concrete Construction. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel to hear more CEOs and thought leaders share their opinions and advice on today's business climate. Until next time, I'm Abby Maloney, and this has been Invest Insights. Thanks for tuning in.